A little Will Smith for you. Feel good on a Tuesday morning. Mike Barrett with us for Good Policies with Barrett Insurance Agency. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Hey, what were you doing back in 1977 on this date?
Well, I was 2. So what does a 2-year-old do? That's what I was doing, whatever a 2-year-old would be doing.
Well, a 2-year-old Mike Barrett was looking at his parents and trying to figure out why in God's name they were crying.
Oh, no. What happened 1977 today?
It was the day Elvis died.
Oh, man.
I remember hearing that news. Man, what a bummer that was.
Oh, the king. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, kind of cool. One of our sponsors through the day has got Shelton, the Elvis impersonator.
Oh, yeah. He does a great job.
Coming this weekend. Mark Shelton.
He does a great job. Yeah. I've been to Graceland. That's a fantastic place to check out.
You got to win this race.
Here.
All right. Good policies. We talk insurance, not Elvis Presley. We haven't talked about insurance inspections in a while. We've talked about, have your current insurance card for your motor vehicle inspections and stuff like that. But
right. Completely different game here. Yeah. So what are inspections when it comes to property, not your autos or motor vehicles? Inspections for property is something that every insurance company really reserves the right to do. Whether they do it or not is kind of a different thing, right? There are companies that are pretty specific about it, like, okay, we're going to do it for every window of specific time, whether it be 5 to 7 years. There are some companies that are going to be like, yeah, we'll just inspect initially, and as long as everything looks good, we'll be okay. But every company reserves their right in the insurance industry to inspect, and I'm talking the ability to inspect for a personal homeowner policy, which is fairly common. One of the biggest companies we work with, which is a Vermont company, they don't inspect properties, but we are, as agents, required to provide photographs of the property, which is kind of a visual inspection of sorts, which is probably why they don't on-site inspect. Then there are other companies in the homeowner industry that will inspect within a couple of weeks of the policy first being written. Why do companies do that? Well, they want to make sure that the risk that they're taking on is, number one, eligible for the program in which it's in. 2, they want to make sure it's meeting all their requirements. Now, if you think about it, these companies, and this is the easiest way to kind of put it as an image in your brain, think of them as just kind of standing there in the background with a checkbook open, waiting. And hoping not to have to write a check, but waiting in case they have to.
I've seen those commercials. Now, I'm going to reference a recent news story to lead into my question.
Sure.
Over the past week or so, I believe it was in Whitefield, we had an explosion and a fire.
Yeah.
Now, it was in an older house.
It was.
If I remember correctly, the news story said it was built in 1847 or something like that, 1874.
I think you're right, yeah.
So is it an older property? Not necessarily 19th century, but if it's an older property versus a newer property, are they more likely to inspect?
Got a couple of companies that are more likely to inspect in that case for sure. So I'll finish the homeowner side, then I'm going to jump to the commercial and farm side. But I've got one company now that has actually launched a program called, they call it their ViewSpection program. And we're going to see more companies doing this over time. Anybody out there who's got auto insurance, they know that claims are handled through the phones, bill payments are handled through the phones, on the apps on the phones. Well, this particular company, their ViewSpection is an app you download on your smartphone, and in lieu of them coming to inspect your property, you download the app, they give you credentials to log in, you take photos and follow the instructions and hit submit and send it to the company, and boom. They actually send you a check for $75, believe it or not, which is pretty nice. But of course, they probably would have spent more than that to have to send an inspector there anyway. So that's a good thing. But the kicker is if it's like a pre-1940 home, they're probably going to send somebody there to do a visual inspection as well. So that is pretty highly probable. What are they looking for, though? They're looking to make sure that the property's in good to excellent condition, the siding's in place, that there's no immediate hazards, that any dogs or animals are properly reported, that the roof's in good condition. If you have wood heat, they want to very much know how that's installed in many cases.
Wiring, plumbing, foundation, these are the things.
Yeah, we don't want knob and tube. And I'm not the insurance company, but they don't want knob and tube. They don't want fuse boxes. They want updated circuit breaker, 100 amp, 200 amp systems. They want, current wiring, current plumbing. They don't want old lead plumbing. They want they want PVC and the PEX and the copper. And but it's tough because as a homeowner, you go, well, heck with you, man. This is my house. And I agree with that, right? But again, you got to keep that image that they're in the background with the checkbook open just in case.
Because your check put checkbook isn't going to handle a check for $250,000.
Right. And honestly, when it comes to different types of business, commercial policies always inspected. Pretty thorough in some cases too. You know, like if you own a convenience store or a church or even fire departments that we insure have been inspected. Irony, yes, but they have to be done. It's a safety inspection in many cases. A lot of the farms that we have a company with that they'd like to inspect the farms. They're looking to make sure that there's fire extinguishers where they need to be, that there's smoke detectors. It's a fire safety inspection as well as a eligibility inspection. So, you know, it's inconvenient, and I will tell you, 99.9% of the time, you probably don't know they did it because many companies, especially post-COVID, are not asking you to go inside. Unless there's a wood stove where they may ask if they can see the wood stove. But most of the time, they're doing what we call a drive-by. You know, so they're rolling in, taking a couple of photos, and you may not know they were there because maybe you were at work when they came through. But companies are doing that.
Well, you mentioned farms briefly. I would think that there's quite a rundown there because you get a lot of safety issues. You know, you got to make sure equipment's up to par. You got to make sure, like, the drainage in the barn and all of that is up to code.
So many things that can go wrong there. And, you know, another thing, too, is you got to think about they're looking at structural integrity of the barn buildings themselves, because what are we looking at in the winter? Snow load, an incredible amount of snow load in many cases. So they're looking to make sure that that's going to hold up to it. So just a lot of things, and it's inconvenient. I hate it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a consumer side of it. I hate it, but it's a necessary evil of the necessary evil of which we call insurance. So.
And that's why it's there in the event of an emergency.
Yes. You know, my wife says, you know, if it was anything other than an accident, it'd be called it on purpose. You know, you need to have it because you don't know how badly you need it until you need it.
That's right. So if folks want more information on this for homeowners, business, farm, whatever.
Yeah. Easy. Give us a call, 748-5224. You can find us right on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, online, thebarrettagency.com, Google, Facebook, and YouTube. Just look for Barrett Insurance Agency.
And so we had Dick Lawrence in this morning.
Heard that.
He's thanked the many sponsors of the Caledonia County Fair on behalf of the community and the Fair Association. We'd like to thank Barrett Insurance for being a proud sponsor.
You know, the fair is one of my favorite things. I've been a big fan of the fair for many years. Dick Lawrence and the entire group of volunteers, not enough credit can be given to the hard work and efforts that those folks put in to put this on every year. So it's going to be an exciting time to go just enjoy the fair. It's bittersweet, right? Because it's the end of summer when you go to the fair, right?
That's right. Yeah. But my favorite part of the fair is the food. I'm sure you're somewhere in that notch.
Can you tell? I've probably had some fried dough in my past.
That's right. Yeah. Back to the music on Magic with Camila Cabello and Ed Sheeran.